Now, why do people want to be such channel intermediaries? Apart from the fact that it can be a profitable business, but there are very distinct needs and different perceptions that many intermediaries have about their own role in the supply chain. And actually this is a pretty dynamic thing, because the roles, for example, might have changed from what it was 15-20 years ago. Usually there are two types of roles, motivations. One is promotional and the second is the partnership thing. It also depends on the producer and the marketer, how exactly he sees this relationship with the intermediary. Now, it's also critical for a marketer to monitor and review the performance of the intermediaries. There are various ways by which one can do it. The most straightforward thing is to see sales, volume of sales, revenues passing through the channel, and how much is it growing or not growing. The second is how profitable it is to service that intermediary, and as opposed to the revenues that, that is, you take the costs of servicing that intermediary as opposed to the net revenues that one gets by delivering through that intermediary, and determine the profitability. The other things is how much is the intermediary prepared to play a role in some manner in financing the operations. So how much inventory and stock is he prepared to hold for how long, and how much of quality, how much of customer service is he prepared to offer, the kind of quality that is being perceived of the service that he is offering, and the feedback that's provided about that particular intermediary or sets of intermediaries by the marketplace, and generally that intermediary's attitude to inter-channel cooperation. So it also depends on the nature of the industry. For example, in the computer business, when you were earlier setting up, large scale infrastructure for companies, it was very important for the company to have local value added resellers playing a role. But increasingly now, the role of the reseller also is looking like it might change, given the new types of devices, the ease by which computers are installable today as opposed to many years ago. There is a great shift also happening, and that's referred to as the power of the channel. In places like the US, manufacturers have actually ceded a lot of power to the retailers or the huge stores. Like Walmart is the largest company in the world, and it virtually can dictate terms to manufacturers like Procter & Gamble or Unilever or Palmolive or whoever, because it is the single largest buyer in many product categories. And therefore, it is possible, like in the case of Walmart, it is happening in other places too, that the channels today are playing a bigger role. In the UK, for example, I think the statistics show that 60% is controlled by 3 or 4 chains. Now, what happens therefore is that the significant shift means that there is a problem in terms of power sometimes, and unless this dynamic is managed well, it can create issues for a marketer. So it is important therefore for marketers to look at cooperative relationships within the distribution channels, and if there are significant power imbalances and differences in motivations and objectives, there can be a serious problem for the marketer and perhaps in many cases even for the customer. Now, there are also some emerging trends in channel management. In some cases, especially things like electronics, computers, there are players with a global distribution and reach, like players like Ingram Micro or Tech Pacific and so on, who are having a presence all over the world. You also have increasing electronic information exchanges happening between intermediaries, and there's also in some cases disintermediation happening because of the prevalence of online marketplaces, or because information technology is also enabling that shift. So you have new intermediaries like e-commerce, online marketplaces, and other kinds of online trading mechanisms that are enabling new kinds of interactions. So in conclusion, channels play a very important role. In many cases, companies sell directly, but in a lot of cases, companies need intermediaries and channels, and they provide a key link between the producer marketer on the one side and the end customer. As we've seen, channels can play a wide variety of roles, and whether it's financing, whether it's promotion, whether it's communication, so on and so forth, they can play a wide variety of roles. The design and choice of a channel depends on the marketer's objectives and how the customer also has certain expectations, especially in terms of services. Channel management is a dynamic process. There is a shift happening on the one side in terms of power, and also because of the changes in the channel opportunities and alternatives thanks to information technology. So this is a fairly rapidly growing and dynamic field, and it's very important for a marketer to be on the ball all the time.